Carl Jung, in his explorations of the unconscious, shared a powerful statement: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This profound quote unveils the influence of what Jung called archetypes, primal elements of the psyche that shape and guide our experiences, desires, and responses to the world. But what exactly are these archetypes, and how do they impact our lives? For Jung, archetypes are universal structures within the collective unconscious, a reservoir of inherited human experiences and imagery. These archetypes transcend time and culture. They are timeless symbolic patterns that we all carry within us. They manifest in recurring themes in our lives: the hero, the shadow, the sage, the mother, and others. Each carries deep, essential meanings about how we see ourselves and the world around us. But beyond being mere psychological patterns, archetypes act as invisible forces steering our behaviors and motivations. If we're unaware of these archetypes, they can quietly take control of our psyche, causing us to repeat patterns we don't fully understand. You may notice particular tendencies in your life: an urge to save others, to fight for ideals, or a constant need for approval. These subtle traits may signal a dominant archetype shaping your journey. In this video, we'll dive into Carl Jung's world of archetypes, exploring their manifestations and, most importantly, helping you discover which archetype most influences your life. Understanding this dominant archetype is the first step toward the inner freedom Jung so often advocated, a way to take the reins of your life rather than being controlled by what was once hidden. So, if you've ever wondered why you react a certain way, or what drives your actions, the answer might lie in the unconscious, among the archetypes that live within you. Together, let's shed light on these forces and explore the deepest layers of the mind. To uncover the archetype that controls your life, we need to understand the core archetypes Jung identified as central to the human psyche. Each archetype has a unique function, tendency, or role, and all of them live within us. However, one or a few may stand out, taking on a dominant position that profoundly shapes our personality, behaviors, and choices. The central archetypes in Jung's theory include the hero, the shadow, the sage, and the lover, among others. Each holds its own characteristics that represent a way of relating to the world. The hero, for instance, embodies strength and the drive to overcome challenges, fighting for justice and confronting obstacles. It's the inner warrior who never gives up, which can make someone tireless in their pursuit of achievement, but can also lead to burnout and the illusion of invulnerability. The shadow, on the other hand, represents what we hide from ourselves, the aspects we tend to repress because they're socially unacceptable or too painful to acknowledge. Jung emphasized that recognizing the shadow is a crucial step towards self-knowledge, as it contains both suppressed potential and traits we're ashamed of. Confronting the shadow can be challenging, but it opens up the possibility for profound and genuine transformation. Another powerful archetype is the sage, symbolizing the quest for wisdom and truth. The sage embodies the introspective and reflective side of the mind, the part that observes, questions, and seeks to understand life's mysteries. Drawn to knowledge and understanding the universe, the sage, when dominant, may lead one to isolation and a tendency to avoid the emotional and practical experiences of everyday life. Finally, the lover archetype connects us to emotions and relationships. It represents surrender, passion, and the desire for unity with others, whether through romantic relationships, friendships, or spirituality. While the lover grants access to empathy and the capacity to love, it can also make us vulnerable to emotional dependency and a fear of rejection. Identifying which of these archetypes resonates most with your life helps you recognize unconscious patterns that shape your attitudes and decisions. Knowing your dominant archetype can reveal what motivates you and highlight blind spots that need attention to achieve psychic balance. To better visualize how archetypes can control our lives, let's consider a few examples that illustrate their influence on decisions, relationships, and even self-perception. We'll look at the behaviors of people whose lives are led by a specific archetype and the impact it has. Imagine a person with the hero as their dominant archetype. They feel a constant urge to prove their abilities and overcome challenges, leading them to take on projects that demand high energy and resilience. Perhaps they overcommit at work or always try to be there for others. To them, saying no feels like weakness or failure. While the hero grants courage and persistence, it can easily lead someone to neglect their own physical and emotional needs, resulting in burnout or even an existential void, as their identity is so tied to achievement that they fear relaxing or failing. Now consider a person dominated by the shadow. They may hide from themselves impulses and feelings they find unacceptable, such as anger or jealousy, deeply repressing them. However, this repression only strengthens the shadow's power, which emerges indirectly through self-sabotaging behaviors, anxiety attacks, or actions that even surprise themselves. The shadow reveals areas of ourselves we'd rather ignore, but by doing so, we risk losing touch with valuable parts of our being, our authenticity, and the ability to be genuine in our relationships. On the other hand, consider someone guided by the sage. This person has a deep desire for knowledge and understanding the truth of things. In many ways, they are ahead of their time with a natural capacity for reflection and analysis. However, their fascination with wisdom can lead them to distance themselves from the practical world, emotions, and even human connections, preferring isolation in their search for answers. This detachment can bring loneliness or difficulty in forming emotional bonds, as they feel they live in their mind. These examples show how archetypes act as invisible forces, shaping our paths and even our perceptions of ourselves and the world. Recognizing which archetype dominates your life is the first step to learning how to balance it, so its strengths work in your favor rather than against your inner peace and fulfillment. One of Jung's most powerful contributions regarding archetypes is that by identifying our dominant archetype, we begin the process of individuation, the journey to integrate all facets of our psyche and become who we truly are. This process involves bringing unconscious aspects to light, which includes not only the dominant archetype, but also those we've suppressed or neglected, especially the shadow. By integrating the shadow, for instance, you access the repressed parts of your psyche, which may include both undesirable traits and hidden talents or potential that, due to fear or repression, have remained hidden. Jung believed that denying these aspects impedes psychological growth. Thus, integrating the shadow is crucial. It releases psychic energy and transforms destructive tendencies into creative forces. This process frees us from the control of unconscious impulses and allows us to harness the shadow's energy to strengthen our autonomy. Beyond the shadow, you explored how archetypes like the sage and the lover may also be repressed in people who, for example, identify solely with the hero. Such an individual may feel a strong urge to save the world or conquer challenges, but might never allow themselves to experience vulnerability or explore relationships in depth. This internal division can lead to a one-sided, stressful life where the person finds worth only in victories and achievements. Integrating the lover archetype, in this case, can bring balance, allowing for a more genuine connection with oneself than others, letting emotions and relationships flourish. The collective unconscious, a core concept in Jung's work, is the realm where these archetypes reside, shared by humanity as a whole. When we connect with our archetypes, we tap into psychic content that links us to universal human experiences. Integrating archetypes, then, is a way to converse with the humanity within us, expanding our consciousness and acknowledging that we are part of a greater whole. This path of self-knowledge is the true hero's journey Jung so often spoke of. Not a hero who only conquers the external world, but one who dares to face the inner world. Identifying and integrating our archetypes is about challenging unconscious destiny and living in harmony with all our parts, freeing ourselves from the invisible forces that control us. Recognizing the archetype that controls your life is just the beginning of a profound journey of self-discovery. When Jung speaks of the need to become conscious of the unconscious to avoid being controlled by it, he invites us to embrace a life of authenticity and freedom. This journey, which he calls individuation, is the process of becoming a complete, integrated person, true to oneself above all. Understanding your dominant archetype is like discovering a hidden map of your soul, a compass to navigate the inner world. This archetype reveals your deepest drives, fears, and motivations, and by identifying it, you gain clarity on why you respond in certain ways or repeat specific patterns. But beyond recognizing your dominant archetype, the individuation process encourages you to explore other archetypes within your psyche. In this way, you discover that you are much more than just one role, one pattern. You are a constellation of possibilities. Integrating the hero, the sage, the lover, the shadow, and the many other archetypes that are part of you allows you to live a rich and balanced life. As Jung explains, by bringing all these parts together, we don't deny any aspect of our nature. Instead, we learn to use them as creative and transformative forces. When we understand the role each archetype plays in our life, we can make more conscious choices, nurture our relationships, seek true purposes, and find a sense of inner peace. It's important to remember that this process is ongoing. The unconscious will always have new messages and revelations, and archetypes will continue to manifest in different ways, depending on the phases of life and challenges we face. Embracing this dynamic and staying open to exploration is the true spirit of self-knowledge that Jung advocates. So, if you find yourself in an internal struggle or a repetitive cycle, ask yourself, which archetype is at play here? And more importantly, what does it have to teach? Instead of trying to control or suppress it, observe it, learn from it, integrate it. This is the secret to stop being controlled and finally live consciously and fully. Remember, as Jung said, what you resist, persist. Let your archetypes flow and work in your favor. After all, true freedom lies in knowing, accepting, and integrating every part of who you are.